Hello, hello.
Howdy.
How are you doing?
Good. Let's dive right in.
Let's dive right in. All right.
Oh, so
Today's
sorry. How
topic,
are you doing? Because you're not 100%. You said.
I'm actually not doing very well. That's right. So the audience doesn't know this, but we actually started this call 30 minutes late because I completely forgot that we had an appointment, and I forgot because I'm not doing well, and I'm eager to jump into bed right after this call.
Yeah, but just
Um,
like a little flu or something. Not you make it sound like
Probably.
you have cancer or something. No.
No, no, no. Most likely just a flu. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So let's put my remaining sound thoughts of the day to good use and talk about Neptune Cache. Since the last time we spoke, which was around 1 month ago, I think we have made two transparent disbursements of redeemed UTXO claims, which is to say, holders of UTXOs on the old chain produced proofs of ownership of funds. Then we verified those proofs of membership. Well, excuse me, we verified that proof of those proofs of ownerships, and based on what was proven, we made disbursements from the claims fund. And those disbursements were made in an auditable, transparent manner. And that's the topic that I'd like to address today.
Sorry, did you mention how many it were?
I said how many it were. Yes, so far there have been two disbursements, but we've already received more claims, so it's very likely going to be more than two in the future.
Okay.
And in fact, I can tell you exactly where to find those claims. If you go to neptune.cash/blog/UTXO redemption, there's a big table. And in the table, there are links to the particular transaction where the disbursements happened. So a couple of disbursements happened in the Genesis block, and we're not counting those because the Genesis block is entirely transparent. But we are counting the disbursement that happened in block 2627 and the disbursement that happened in block 6264.
Mm-hmm.
And if you press that link, you will actually see an Explorer page, and you'll see how many coins went from, well, I guess you don't, I guess where from and where to is ill-defined, but you can see how many coins are moving to each individual recipient.
You
And
suggest I do that now?
uh, you can if you want.
So Neptune
Um,
Cache slash.
/blog/UTXO redemption. And it's the third item on the blogs column.
The third item. Redemptions.
Yes.
In the interest of transparency, all UTXO redemption claims and their associated disbursements are logged below.
Exactly. And so in the download column, you can
Maybe
download the
maybe
proofs
I'll
of.
just I'll share my
Share your screen. That's a great idea.
I would just like to share this one tab, but it's not. Oh, here we go. UTXO redemption. Okay. So this is it.
Yes. All right. So in the column on the right, you will be able to download the proofs of ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you download all of them, you will be able to verify all of them, and that's part of what makes it transparent. You will be able to reproduce the entire table. I guess up to formatting, but the basics will be there. And in the middle, or slightly to the right of the middle, we have the transactions where these disbursements were made. So that's block 2627, announcement 14. And that takes you to...
Should I click that?
Sorry?
I can
Yeah,
click
go ahead,
that.
click on it. I thought it was the Explorer that was slow. So it takes you to a block, and that block contains one very big transaction, because every block contains one very big transaction. But what's special about this block is that announcement 14 actually contains all the UTXO data of all the inputs and all the outputs. And this is so that we can all verify that the people who receive claimed UTXOs actually produced a proof of ownership first. And secondly, that the origin of these redemption payouts, which corresponds to the number of blocks that we had on the legacy network. This transparency demonstrates that we're not embezzling those funds. We're actually using them to make payouts. So I'd say transparency has its benefits. It ensures that you don't have to trust us. And the last thing I would ask of anyone is to trust me. So that's a good thing. But it also has a downside. In the first approximation, one transparent transaction means one less private transaction, and that degrades the anonymity set for everybody else. So we certainly don't want more people to make transparent transactions. In the limit, if everybody but you makes transparent transactions, then your own transactions aren't very private. And also the tools with which we produced these disbursements, they are out there now. They are even part of the Git repository. Anybody can use them. And so we've effectively made it easier for people to opt out of privacy. Now, why would anybody do that? Users probably have no incentive to do that, but conceivably, exchanges may want to do that in order to better demonstrate compliance with whatever regulatory frameworks they need to comply with.
So hang on. So what you're saying is you've in basically providing for a way to make these reimbursements, you've created tooling to make what you're calling transparent transactions. Transparent in the sense that they're not private, not transparent as in they're see-through. You don't see anything. You actually see something that you would otherwise not see.
Yes. So essentially all the data that you need to track payments, including the amount, but also the randomizers for the commitment scheme that otherwise gives privacy. So it's the commitment scheme that generates privacy under the assumption that the randomizers are secret. If they're not secret, then it doesn't generate privacy. And so those randomizers are public as well in these transparent transactions, precisely to enable tracking of payments. Yeah, and besides that one announcement that contains all of this data, it's a transaction like any other transaction. And in order to create one, you just use a special RPC endpoint that produces this announcement along with all the other necessities of a transaction. So we've made it very easy to make transparent transactions. And we obviously hope that this feature does not catch on, because if it does catch on, then we're essentially shooting ourselves in the foot. Because a robust privacy system is one in which all participants give privacy to everyone.
But you're calling it a feature, but is it really a feature of the network, or is it more like in the sort of in the smart contract layer? Or how should people see this?
It's certainly a feature of the overlay protocol. So nothing has changed in the consensus protocol, and you can put anything you like into an announcement. That was already the case. Now we're just using one of the available announcements for transmitting data that pertains to the rest of the transaction. And so even if Neptune Cache didn't have this capacity for holding announcements, we could still broadcast this data through some other means. We could put it on the website. And so in particular, this feature / weakness, technically speaking, it applies to every privacy preserving cryptocurrency, because you can always put the data that de-anonymizes your transaction on your own website. And I'm actually not sure how I feel about that. Like I said, it's nice to have transparency in some respects, and it's nice to have privacy in other respects, and it would be nice if those two forces didn't pull in opposite directions. And so that gave rise to the question, is it possible to make a transaction in cryptocurrencies such that whatever data you claim is associated to that transaction cannot be plausibly linked to that transaction? So here's a transaction, and here's the proof that the inputs match and the outputs match, and that proof should be just as easy to forge as any string of bytes, and should have no convincing power. And I didn't quite answer that question fully, but my intuition so far is that you cannot do it with on-chain transactions, but you can do it with off-chain transactions. So that's a selling point for privacy, for Lightning, as well as for rollups to a lesser degree. Some rollups have blockchains on their layer too. Because when you have a Lightning transaction, there's no public data to link your proof to. So there's nothing you could use to de-anonymize the transaction in a way that's credible.
Because
you need to verify the proof against some claim that you derive from data that lives on the blockchain.
And because it's not public, because it's peer-to-peer, it's okay.
The whole point of Lightning is to keep transactions off the blockchain. And so this supposed de-anonymization information, you would have to take the publisher's word for it that it's correct. You can't actually verify it.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure I understand your concern, because it's sort of like you're saying that you've built a blockchain with scalable privacy with a Turing complete language on top, and you can use that infrastructure to build something that's no longer privacy preserving. But that's
yes.
But yeah, but you knew that was possible from the get-go.
Yes, yes.
You just
We
didn't
didn't know
think
that
you'd
this
be the
was.
one to build it.
Well, I guess the reason why it's a topic now is because we made these tools and we showcase to the world that there actually are specific transactions that you can trace on this blockchain, and these tools are now very easy to use, and so um, we're making it easier for people to be less private, and it's not really an opt-in thing, or I guess it is an opt-in thing, but it's not fine if everybody does what they want, because whenever you do not de-anonymize yourself, you're degrading my privacy. Privacy is a collective good in that sense, and we seem to be chipping away at that. Whenever we make a whenever we make a whenever we make a transparent transaction.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so that's what you've been hearing from the community as well?
One voice in particular comes to mind. So I can't say it's a multitude of voices, but it's concern, and this voice put words to thoughts that were already floating around in my own head.
Okay. And before we started recording, you said that you wanted to talk about two perspectives, I think. Did we?
Well, the other perspective is simply that you need this in order to build a trustworthy, transparent foundation, like we have for the UTXO Redemption Claims Fund. I think we made the right choice in making these transactions transparent, but I guess we're not looking forwards to having many similar funds that are supposedly or that need to be transparent, because if there are too many of them, then it doesn't make any sense to use Neptune Cash for private transactions anymore.
Now I think I understand. So that's what you're referring to, a collective good. So you're saying, okay, like maybe it was foreseeable that one could build this with a Turing complete language on top, but now that you've built it yourselves, then it sort of makes more real the possibility that this proliferates, and there's so many that it sort of degrades the privacy of people that want nothing to do with it.
Exactly. Very succinctly put.
Yeah, I can kind of see that, but I could also imagine that a couple months from now, look back and you just think that's wasn't even worth one thought, because they just doesn't catch on at all.
Yeah, let's hope so. So the argument was made that making withdrawals transparent makes it easier for exchanges to comply with whatever regulatory framework they need to comply with. And if that's the case, then there is a rather strong nudge towards using transparent transactions, at least on the part of exchanges. That's speculation, though. I don't think it's necessarily it necessarily makes it easier for them to comply. In fact, I highly doubt that. If compliance is an issue, it's because exchanges are prevented from providing the source of funds, not the destination.
But again, isn't it just a logical consequence of having a Turing complete language on your blockchain that you can program something that kind of defeats its purpose.
Not just Turing complete. I mean, yes, the blockchain is Turing complete, but the Turing completeness is not a feature here. The feature is that the transaction can contain arbitrary messages called announcements. You can put anything into an announcement, and once it's part of the transaction, you cannot take it off anymore. That's what an announcement is. And there are no other constraints on announcements, and so we use that for this purpose, and you can use it for many other purposes. So yes, it is a consequence of that. And even on blockchains that don't have announcements, you could broadcast the de-anonymization information elsewhere with the same effect.
But I mean, the feature that is relevant here is that you can reference like the variables that are used in the transaction itself. It's not like a string that you need to specify beforehand.
Yes, correct. It's like a self-aware transaction.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so as soon as you build that, then you know this could be used to defeat its purpose.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you could make it even more nefarious. I'm not sure I should say this, but if you're gonna use the Turing completeness of the smart contracts in Neptune Cash, and you want to undermine privacy, what you'll do is you will send out payments that come with a smart contract that requires all subsequent payments downstream from there to be transparent. That's possible. We haven't written that. I don't think we will. But yeah,
I think we cut
like
we cut right here, like 10 seconds before this moment.
I don't think it would catch on, but it might.
Yeah, I think the answer is you don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. And that's part of the reason why we built this. We don't have a complete picture in our head of exactly what we want the world's future monetary backbone to look like, but we have a very strong intuition that people can discover what it looks like by building on top of the right foundation, which is what we're looking to build.
Awesome. And on that note, I think it's a good moment to end today's conversation.
Sounds good. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.